It's the time to get down.
All right.
I like that. That was kind of like one of those quick fades, man. I like that.
To get you ready for the good news. The morning news, the good news, the bad news, and the other shit, ladies and gentlemen. As to get you ready, I tell you, the good news, the bad news, and the other shiznit. Yes.
Okay. All right.
All right?
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying anything, man. I just try to realize what's the good news. I'm just not sure.
Well, the president, that's what I think the State of the Union was designed to tell us that. That's the talk of the day, you guys. Here on the news. Can't get away from that. The State of the Union. How do you feel about it? First of all, it seems like people, depending on what opinion you had before the State of the Union, it kind of entrenched you further in that union. If you were a believer, you were more of a believer. If you were a doubter, you're more of a doubter. But it was the State of the Union. But this year was a little different, Vic, because you had the president's State of the Union. Then, of course, the traditional opposing party does their piece afterwards. 5 minutes after the president leaves the room, they start theirs.
Right.
But this year you had the additional drama that was provided by the Tea Party, the newly elected Tea Party representative,
Right.
who was there.
Right.
I mean, and was going to give her piece, and the whole point was who was going to claim Michelle Bachmann, Representative Michelle Bachmann, who was going to claim, because a loose cannon, I guess, not knowing exactly where she was coming from. I think the Republicans were a little reticent to claim her. Mm-hmm. But what's funny to me, you guys, is that I went around yesterday before the speech, and it was amazing how much stuff was out there about the speech before the speech.
Okay.
That's part of the thing I wanted to reflect on today, because I went and gathered news because it's amazingly accurate. If to me, if it's that much pre-release, Vic,
yeah.
What is it saying?
Well, I mean, okay. When you say pre-release,
It's like, in other words, to me, okay, you guys, the problem I had with everybody's presentation, some were worse. I thought the Republican one was really pretty bad. I thought that the little piece that Bachmann did was just nothing.
what about? Okay, go ahead.
Now, the president's stuff was like a good coach giving us the good pep talk. And
Yeah.
it was enjoyable on that level.
Yeah.
But to me, it lacked anything to really give you a true idea of the state
Right.
of the union. It
Yeah.
was, to me,
Okay.
a goal to give you, no offense, now you can say he's to make you feel better, to get the team rah-rah, rally the troops. But there was certainly no state of the union
Right.
about any state to me,
Okay,
about
you
what's
make
going
me-
on.
Make me put my glasses up because you're shining right now, man. So
I'm
basically-
shining?
No. When I say no. When I say you're shining, when you go, okay, you've already given a grade level for
Well,
the
I'm
president.
saying, I'm just
Wait a
saying for
minute.
me, because
Wait-
to me, they're not telling you the truth.
Wait a minute. Watch this. Scale 1 to 10. Effective. Convincing. Message gone across.
7.
Okay, there we
6,
go.
7,
There we-
7,
All right, now I
7.
can put my glasses back
7.
down. Now, see, I feel better now.
Dealing with the true
All right.
vision of what's happening,
Okay.
2.
You got to average that out, man. Take the 2.
Well, what I'm
take
saying
the
is
7.
this. There's people out there, and I'm not trying to be the doom and gloom, but there are a bunch of sources you can go read, and they say that if you add up all the cuts proposed by the Democrats and the Republicans together, it's less than 10% of what's needed.
Right.
No one's doing the real stuff because it's bad news, and they're all doing dog and pony shows for you. And that's what they did, and it's just that the president did a better show.
Well, let me ask you
To me,
this.
he just did a better show.
How do you correlate high approval ratings with bad delivery?
I correlate high approval ratings with
Watch this.
wonderfully written promotions and marketing plans. I can sell you dog doo-doo and convince you to rub it on your face. Believe me, I can.
So who
All
you're-
right?
so you
And
really-
marketing and branding people know that they people in business, marketing, brand, they think they can sell you everything. They say, we already did. Remember we sold you the pet rock?
So
a
who's-
rock in
so
a
who-
cardboard box.
Who's the indictment on really here? The message is not about that you know.
The message is
Go
that
ahead.
there's sheep out there.
And who is the sheep?
And the sheep are you.
Oh, you. Hey,
the
you
American
guys.
public.
Hey, you guys. I am not talking. You guys
The
are
American
smart.
public. Well, I think the
He
people
has no faith.
The people in our chat room are going to be critical of the public too. I think that's the issue. I think the issue. The question really is how far do we want to support until we see real change? I just feel like the president hasn't taken the true leadership. He had the mandate coming in to really take the leadership of these things, and to me, he hasn't, Vic.
Well, I mean, look, the part that is glaringly, clear here is that I always go back and I did my little survey. Somebody gonna say, how many people did you survey? I said 2. I said
that's very relevant, though. It's a special 2.
It's a good 2.
It's a good 2.
I asked the question. I said, we had some people in here in the studio while, after the whole thing.
We had some
calls.
hookers that came by.
I didn't call any of the people that was in the studio hookers. There were some pimps and players.
Oh, that was a different night.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Bottom line, I said, please, somebody acknowledge the best State of the Union address that you had that had formula, had passion, had sale, and had content, and had beef. And everybody in the room, nobody could say, "Oh, this one."
I think Clinton did pretty good. I can't remember. I just remember Gerald Ford was particularly bad.
For the people that's 25 and like 30,
I can't help them. They don't care. No way.
You got to go.
See, they're out trying to get laid right now.
If you're going to reference a good State of the Union address, you better go get that video clip, or else don't say nothing.
Well, let's go out there right now and get some of the commentary of from the international press. Okay, here we go. Let's take a listen, Vic.
You got it, man.
The international press.
And President Obama will most likely, in some way, address the tragic events in Moscow during his State of the Union address tonight. But he
didn't.
Expected to focus on the economy, encouraging competitiveness.
Remember, I'm telling you what they were talking about before the show.
Between Democrats and Republicans. But is it all for show? And does the system lend itself?
Pause. I got to remind you guys, too. They had this thing last night. It was like, okay, they were trying to show how they were going to be buddy up. So the whole thing was that you were supposed to sit with someone of the opposite side. So they were calling it like the State of the Union date night. You were supposed to sit with, Republicans were supposed to sit with Democrats. They're supposed to come and sit together. And later on, perhaps get some strippers.
Oh, okay. First of all, who is the organizers of this that required or suggested?
Obama will most likely.
I think that was the president. I don't know. All right, you guys. So I don't know. So I just want you guys to see how much bullshit this is.
Oh, there it goes.
I'm sorry. Okay, but check it out, you guys.
All right.
And Mac, okay. Now I'm going to show you some of the news clips that were out that predicted what the president was going to talk about. And you decide if they knew ahead of time. Right? So this is Russia Russia television. Okay, and I'm going to show you what they were saying about the president's speech immediately prior to the speech. Here we go.
Likely, in some way, address the tragic events in Moscow during his State of the Union address tonight. But he's expected to focus on the economy, encouraging competitiveness and innovation, as well as cooperation between Democrats and Republicans. But is it all for show? And does the system lend itself to really only benefit the few, not the many? Well, for more Market Tickers, Carl Denninger is talking to us from Florida. Carl, good to see you as always. So Obama's going to talk about the economy, and I just want to throw some figures out here. This is from the Congressional Research Service, which shows that there are now 1.4 million, quote-unquote, very long-term unemployed Americans, those who have been out of work for 99 weeks or longer. And some estimates actually have that number as high as 7 million. Jobs are being shipped overseas, left and right. What could Obama possibly say or do today to make things better for these people?
Well, what our president needs to do is to stand up and say, we're not going to be spending more money than we make anymore. Unfortunately, that's almost impossible for him to say today, because if you look at the federal budgetary picture, if we were to get rid of all of the discretionary spending that the government does, we still couldn't balance the budget. That is, if we just cut it back to entitlements, we'd still be in the hole. So what I expect him to say instead is, we'll spend more money. He'll use the word investment, which is the word the presidents always use when they don't want to say spend. And he'll try to skew that towards things like infrastructure projects, rebuilding bridges and highways and things like this. The problem with it is, I don't know how he thinks he's going to fund that. The answer thus far during the downturn has been, we'll borrow the money. And that's a great idea right up until the point that somebody says, how are you ever going to pay that back? And so the unemployment problem feeds into this, because the tax base is how the government gets its money to be able to tax. And if you can't get people back to work paying taxes, then you're going to have a problem fundamentally with the budget at some point in the future, and that day is now.
Carl, I want to put up a graphic here that you're going to see in a second. This is the Buick Invicta, brought to you by the United States and China. It's actually created in a design studio in China.
That's what people were talking about.
Experts are saying that this basically shows the growing importance of China to GM, that if Buick is to ever have a renaissance in the United States, the foundation will be over in China. How do we explain that? Something that is so uniquely American.
The problem with exporting all of this kind of design work and everything else to China is that the jobs have to be here or the revenue won't be here. We may want to buy very nicely designed vehicles that are manufactured or designed somewhere else, but if we don't design and build them in America, where's the money going to come from for Americans to buy the cars? I personally have a problem with the exporting of all the jobs and the effort over to China, simply because you have the Chinese that are willing to work at a small fraction of what the cost of employing somebody here in the American country is, and I don't see how you can solve the problem by having more of that work done over there. At some point, you have to buy the products. That's where
he's from Niceville, Florida.
Well, given all that, I mean, are these jobs ever going to come back to the U.S., these manufacturing jobs?
Niceville?
The hope that we have in America and that a lot of people have been selling is the idea that China's wage imbalance and their environmental imbalance will eventually fix itself because the Chinese standard of living will rise and they will stop allowing the pollution that goes on in their country to occur the same way that we did in the 1950s. We polluted our air and our water, and we said enough of that and stopped it. Unfortunately, there are 10 Chinese and Indians for every American, and so if you attempt to rise up from the depths by standing on the heads of the American population, there's 10 of them for every one of us, and the math just doesn't work out all that well.
You know, the whole thing is that you see people questioning, even this is prior to the speech, right? And the whole line that's flashing across the screen is, will the president reveal the truths? Did he reveal the truths?
Wait a minute.
I was asking people, what do they think? Did he reveal the truths?
Is there a truth?
I don't even know.
Well, wait a minute. Okay, let me just figure this out. There's supposed to be a truce only when it takes place at the State of the Union address. They were
all going to come together.
Wait a minute. First of all, did anyone? Well, this is what I'm going to do, you guys.
Together
wait a
as
minute.
one.
Watch this. I always say this. They find a photo op moment, and the best photo op moment to me is when he made his speech in reference to the gays, and the generals are sitting all across the rows, and they're stoic. They're not moving. They're like cement. Everyone's clapping, and they're not even blinking. That's the photo op moment. So, what do you think about that, Mario? I mean, did he translate a message that seems like they were all cooperating on his team?
Well, at least, yeah, for the most part. And that's why I'm going to quote Mac McAllister, who sent us his quote of the day.
All right.
That says, God made shepherds and sheep. Know which one you are before you go out in the real world.
I'm the fox.
So he's real. He's real. All right, so that's another one. Let me tell you, there's a bunch of stuff going on around the world.
Right.
I got to take you really briefly around the world to stuff, because that's what's happening. We have to go to Australia, and we have to go to Egypt. But let's take it first to Egypt.
If these scenes are any indication, anger is at boiling point in Egypt, a populace known for its apathy, making history on Tuesday. Thousands marching against poverty and a government they hold responsible. The message loud and clear.
Enough is enough.
Just listen to the chants roaring in downtown Cairo. The hundreds of people walking to the streets. It's unprecedented for people to march to the streets this way as an act of protest without security trying to prevent them.
Inspired by the events in Tunisia, Egyptian activists had been using the internet to call for a day of anger on January 25th, the public holiday that marks Police Day. Calls for an uprising against